Welcome to 1856 First Church, Pella, Iowa podcast.
Oh, hello and welcome, friends. This week, Pastor Bob is not here, but I do have other people in the studio with me. I have our very own Mike Melody and Alex Foley.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do my best Pastor Bob impression.
Ooh, I like it.
I'm going to do an Alex Foley impression the best I can.
Oh, shit, that makes me not feel good about myself. I'll be myself too.
This is going to be a wild podcast, friends, so just buckle up. So hopefully Pastor Bob is having a great trip. Uganda, they made it there. The team made it safely to Uganda. We got proof of life. He sent us a picture of everybody. They looked well rested, surprisingly, in their travels.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything from him yet, Mike?
Well, he sent that picture. I drove him to Chicago to drop him off the airport. I talked to him today. Needed him to send an order of worship, so.
Okay.
Yeah, he's working on church things in Uganda.
All right.
I offered to do it, you know.
Well, I'm hoping they're listening from Uganda because I do like that we can say that we're an international podcast.
Siri, what time is it in Kampala, Uganda right now? If you all heard that, it's 9:33 p.m. in Kampala.
Well, there you
it's
go.
1:33 p.m. here in Pella, Iowa.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought they were that far ahead of us.
They're
It's
probably
crazy.
sleeping. I hope they're sleeping.
Well, I think they would have to. It's a
Yeah.
long journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Pastor Bob is gone and we're handling it today. And this Sunday, we'll have Alex Foley preaching again. But first, we have announcements, which actually aren't that many. So celebration of Sunday. We had a great Sunday. We had some baptisms. Mike, you want to talk about our baptisms?
Mariah, Owen, and Roman. Yeah, actually, Alex, did you meet with one of these boys?
Yeah, I actually met with both of the boys. Yeah. So that was a real testament of God's growth in our church and the development of young minds to be young leaders. And it was just cool to see them both confidently assert not only their faith, but their desire to serve and grow. So I was really excited to be there on Sunday and to witness that.
And then Patty met with Mariah. But yeah, Roman's going into 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Owen is in 2nd grade.
Yeah,
And
pretty cool.
what's so cool about that is Alex gave the thumbs up and said, Owen is legit. He has legit faith. And yeah, it's just what a blessing to have kids step up on their own and say, we want to be baptized. We want to proclaim our faith in Jesus.
Yeah, it was just super cool because the conversation I had with them wasn't just like, yes or no, do you believe in this or that? It was like, why do you believe in Jesus? How do you know that your faith is real? You know, questions where they really have to have some kind of an evidence, a defining of what it is that they actually are claiming. That was so cool. Or like, what is the gospel in your own words? Those kinds of questions, you know, they passed or they excelled in their confidence in those questions. It was just really cool to see.
Yeah, I love when we have our baptism Sundays. It makes me reflect my own because I was a adult baptism. And so, yeah, it's similar to like when you go to a wedding and with your spouse and you sit there and you watch the bride and groom and you kind of almost renew your vows. And I look at that on like baptism Sundays too, as you just look at that beautiful
When were
covenant.
you baptized?
I don't know how old I was. I just remember I was a senior in college.
Okay, cool. Where at?
Up here in town at Calvary.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah,
I
adult
was
baptism.
baptized in 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the high school pool that I went to.
The pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's where we were meeting. We were a church plant, so we were just meeting there at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a picture of it in my office.
Alex, did you get baptized as an adult as well? Am I remembering this?
Yeah, my experience is long and drawn out, just like Joey's accent. But yes, I did get baptized on Valentine's Day 2016. Jesus was my Valentine when I officially made my real surrender to Jesus and turning to Christ for appropriate reasons and surrendering Him. So that was my adult baptism. baptism.
Breanne has a pen covered in pink hearts. It makes me think she might receive that on Valentine's.
Yeah, I think it's one of my children's, but it writes well, so I took it. But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity as we talk about sharing testimonies with one another, and it just encourages us and spurs us on in our faith. That I love seeing the baptisms of these young people.
Yeah.
So it was neat to encourage them. They had celebrations, which I loved, that people were celebrating their children on Sunday, which was great. But so then the other thing we had, Care Nights coming up, July 29th at 6:30 p.m. And Pastor Bob will not be back yet. So we have an opportunity to beat him in his card writing abilities.
Explain that a little bit.
He is a great card writer. He is a competitive card writer, but he does say if anybody could beat him, he'd take him out for ice cream. So I don't know if that still applies with him in Uganda, but
everyone that shows up, we just want to say to you, you're getting free ice cream from Pastor Bob.
Yep, I think so.
I guess it does apply.
Well, it's now recorded, so I think
it's on the podcast.
It is, absolutely. So we just finished up VBS, Mike.
Yes.
And it was a wonderful week of time with little people that came in, and a great celebration on Friday. And so I would like to go into that and visit with you and Alex, or should I say Marshall Mike and Joyous Joey. Did I get it, Joey?
Oh, it was close. Your mouth wasn't quite open enough when you finished the jar. But yes, it was a splendiferous extravaganza with the little people, and then on Friday with the big people too.
Yes, it was. And our theme this year was, so the curriculum we used was Wonder Junction. And so everything this week was the wonder, right?
A wonder.
Yes. And it was covering what was the main theme this year, Joyous Joey.
The main theme, well, there were 5 main wonders that we went through of the wonder of Jesus Christ. We went through his birth. We went through his childhood. We went through his ministry or life. We went through the death and resurrection, the beautiful gospel. And then on the last day, as we wrapped up the gospel, we also mentioned how he is coming back. And those are all wonders of the junction.
Marvel at Jesus.
Oh, okay.
Breanne, in order to get in my character, I have to say,
yes.
Howdy, Hector. Howdy. Or I have to say, Pastor Bob.
Oh, I'm sure he'll love to hear that from Uganda.
He likes to make fun of me sometimes, but I can handle it.
Yep. I think it was well done. The kids had a great time.
The kids loved yelling, Pastor Bob.
Yeah. I know. And it did. He said it grew hair on his face.
Well done, like a burnt steak. Ain't that right, Marshall?
Okay.
Wow. So we had Joyous Joy, who was leading our Bible time.
Yes, I was almost always joyous unless there was some discipline involved, sure. then a little less joyous.
Sure. Well, in your Bible time, what came out of that for you? Was there any moments of, any reflections that you have from teaching?
Yeah, I like to look in the mirror. Sometimes them reflections really do stand out. There's a couple that really come to mind. When you start talking to the end of the class, there's a couple minutes left, and the kids have had their fun. They've been introduced to some ideas, and then you start talking to them about how this actually is the real story of the world. You know what I mean? Like, you actually get to the heart of it, and you talk to them about how this impacts their life, and you see the little sparkles in some of them eyes. You see them start to brighten up and start to get it. You know what I mean? There's some connections there where they start to realize, man, this is fun, but it's also true. And so I'd say that's probably the highlight in general, is those last few minutes when you're wrapping it up and bringing it home. And then if I had one more thing, I'd probably say the joy that, I might be a little biased being joyous, Joy, but it's the joy that wonder of a child can look like, where adults also often lose that joy. And the kids are just so eager to learn and to jump and do fun things when it comes to the gospel that I just really hope that it might have also rubbed off of some of our leaders and some of our adults too. It's not just us teaching the littles, it's also the littles reminding us that it's just too blessed to be stressed sometimes. You know what I'm saying, Marshall?
That was good.
Howdy, hey.
Yeah, that's right. Howdy. Well, your counterpart was Ashley Oakley.
My counterpart was
Well, they were both because she taught preschool, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she taught in the preschool room, but she's on vacation, so I couldn't have her here today. But how was your time, Marshall Mike? What were you up to all week?
Oh, it was fantastic. You running on those, playing with them worship teams with Pretty Patrick at the drums. Oh, it was a lot of fun. Doing the boom, boom, clap.
Yeah, that was good.
I loved it when that little boy would sing out every time. That would just make me smile. The kids are free to have fun. We had so much fun with worship. We had so much fun doing announcements, Ashley and I. We had a lot of good banter and even holding that snake at the end of the week. That was a good time.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Well, we had a points competition. A points competition that I would say was manipulated a little bit by Ashley's own complaining to other people about her fear of holding a snake. And so she got some big checks in her team's basket, her boot, where it kind of changed the outcome of things. So then I lost the contest. I had to hold the snake, but it was all for the good of the Lord.
But this was a little
Pastor
like
Samuel, my friend in Uganda.
Yeah.
He's going to be very blessed.
Yeah, he will be very blessed. But this wasn't like a gardener snake. What kind of snake are we talking?
Well, so I was told it was a boa constrictor. But in fact, the boa constrictor was a little ornery that day, and they brought a different kind of snake. So I don't know what it was.
Well, it weighed a lot, though.
It was about 40 pounds.
Yeah. Did you enjoy holding the snake?
When that snake, I didn't mind it too much, but when it was coming up on my face and sticking its little tongue out, that was freaking me out. And then the kids started chanting, Ashley, Ashley, Ashley.
They did.
And as they did that, Ashley committed to holding the snake, and that thing wrapped up around her leg. Oh, boy. That was crazy. I think when that happened, she was all done.
I know. I couldn't tell if it was, excitement or fear. I don't know. She was.
It was friendship. That's what that was.
But she was a good sport, to say the least. So we appreciated you guys through the week. But I guess I didn't ask you, but did you have any highlights, Marshall Mike?
Well, hearing the kids sing was really a blessing. Being able to see them, some of the little kids. I remember watching Milo Simmons. He was wearing his Woody outfit almost every day, doing the motions, and he was just at that age where he could do the motions, and it was just so fun to watch him and others around him do the motions, have fun, sing at the top of their lungs. Yeah.
So, Marshall Mike or Joyous Joy, why should a student come to VBS?
Because they're going to have fun, and they're going to hear about Jesus. Man, those two things, you can't separate them. We're going to have a lot of fun. Yeah. We're gonna go crazy sometimes. We're gonna calm down too. We're gonna hear about Jesus, and they're gonna see the wonder. We're gonna be able to see the wonder of Jesus in their eyes. That they're learning these things, they're making sense.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what the theme is next year necessarily, but we do hope to see everyone next year.
I will divulge that there are some closed door meetings where we're talking about the theme for next year already.
You know what I love is that you actually had to turn your hat around right now to get your accent.
Things weren't clicking. I have to say, howdy, Hector, a few more times, and then things come around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Pastor Bell would enjoy hearing that from Uganda. Well, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate both of you for your time that you put into VBS, and there was many other leaders that were behind the scenes. We got to give a shout out to Deb and to Lily because they were orchestrating quite a bit.
Man, Ashley worked a lot too.
Yeah.
And Breanne, I know you spent some countless hours here.
I don't know.
Taken down.
I had a lot of good volunteers. So, we did the decor and we turned this place into a train station in the West. It was my favorite theme.
With a Jeep. I saw a Jeep on that.
There was a Jeep too. Yeah.
Cool Jeep.
Yep. And we had a fake snake on the stage. That's not the real one. Anyway. But so VBS, great week. Thank you to you both. But I would like to interview our own Alex Foley now.
All right, then. Well, Joyous Joy going to have to say farewell if I'm going to have to bring on old Alex over there. I'll go get him real quick. You guys all have a good day. Thank you for interviewing Marshall and I.
Well, Breanne, I'm back.
Yes.
Marshall Mike, he said, howdy, Hector, one more time off mic. That was that. And so I'm gonna let you and Alex talk about the sermon, and I'll catch up with you guys later.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Hey,
Mike.
good to see you guys again.
Oh, Alex, thanks for bringing the word on Sunday.
Absolutely. It's always an honor and a joy to do so with the body of Christ.
Yeah, so we ended up, we were still doing the theme of the Dear John letters. So we were in 1 John 4, 1 through 6. And you had titled it, Are You From God? Which was a wonderful title, in which we should be asking this question. As someone who enjoys writing, I appreciated your opening to describing how John put together the text from verses 1 through 4. Do you want to describe that structure?
Yeah, it's always really an interesting thing to kind of ask, what is the overall structure of the passage? What's the train of thought? It's one of the beauties of looking at passages instead of just individual verses, because you not only get the context, like what he's talking about and who he's talking to, but you're actually getting into the literary context where you're actually saying, how is this argumentation built? And when you do that, a lot of times it uncovers some gold, where you're learning about what is the central point that he's getting at here, or the overall theme. So you're looking at all sorts of different options between repetitions in certain words or phrases. But in this specific scenario, we had a chiastic structure, or what's called a chiasm. And this has been true in many other passages in the scriptures. It's not just here in 1 John 4. But the real concept is that you start at the beginning of a story or of an argumentation. You progressively move towards your climactic moment, and then you walk backwards in the exact same order, trying to tell people, hey, where I landed there in the middle was the whole reason that I said this. And that's what we get to in 1 John 4, 1 through 6. Verse 4 is really that central point that he's trying to walk us toward, the whole reason, the whole purpose, what matters most. And then he reviews, going backwards, the next couple verses, what he had already said, trying to say, hey, remember, that's why we do this. Yeah. So that's really the punch of it, was verse 4.
Yeah, so verse 4 says, little children, you are from God and have overcome them. For he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. So just wanted to put that out there. If you didn't have your Bible in front of you, that is what Alex is referring to when he's putting that together.
Yeah, and then the last point was what matters most, and that's really the point is, would you expect anything less than salvation and sovereignty is what matters most? What matters most is that you realize that Jesus is greater than he who is in the world, that he is the conquering king, and that also that we are little children. We have overcome, past tense, and we are from God, that this is our true identity, should we have read chapters 1 through 3 of John and have resonated with his call to walking in the light, practicing righteousness, not continuing in sin. These different phrases were throughout John, 1 John rather, he says, this is how you know if you are in the faith. This is how you know. And so if you get all the way to 1 John 4, he says, hey, if you've gotten this far, now you have tested the spirits, now you have discerned false prophets, now you have recognized the importance of these things. We have overcome, and Jesus is greater. Rejoice, have confidence, have excitement in that, and then walk in that boldness as you remember these truths.
Yeah. What I appreciated on Sunday, you said this too, any good teacher, right? You got to have a good acronym. And so you had a great acronym because you had 3 main points that you covered on Sunday, and you just covered the third. But the first point was how to test the spirits. And you had 3 words that went with the acronym EAR. Do you want to touch on those?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes, teachers, it can be really tempting to try and create a word that'll make the acronym fit. But here it came just naturally. I could have made it ERA or EAR or something. It didn't have to be in that order. But these are 3 words that directly come from Bible verses that are referencing how to discern the difference between truth and error, or truth and fallacy, or true prophets and false prophets. So you have the concept of examining the scriptures that comes from Acts 17 with the Breanne church that were told things by Paul and then had to go and look in the scriptures to examine. We talked about how that word actually means interrogate. It's the same word, meaning the first time it was used was how Jesus was interrogated when he was arrested and interrogated by Pilate. And so this is a very profound potent word. This isn't casual reading. And so we really have to move beyond casual reading, where that is good, into examining, interrogating, questioning the scriptures to try and get answers and to try and find hidden truths there. So that's the E. The A is abiding, and that is also from the scriptures, where it talks about how if you have discerned that there are false prophets, the thing that is important is that you abide. And this comes from 1 John 2, which was just talked about a few weeks ago. And then that's really essential to remain or dwell, other words for abide, this concept. And the big thing that I focused on there was how we know from Jesus' own mouth that where 2 or 3 are gathered, he is there with them in a special way, because we already know that he is going to be with us to the ends of the earth, to the end of the age, rather. And so if he goes out of his way to say, hey, when Christians are gathered together, I'm there. It's to say, I think, if you're going to abide with him, then abide with his family, abide with other believers, remain, dwell with, be with on a regular basis people of faith. So that's the A. And then finally, recognize the fruit. The recognize is straightforward, again, from the scriptures, from Matthew chapter 7, where he talks directly, Jesus does, about, hey, there will be false prophets, there will be ravenous wolves, and you will know them, you will recognize them by their fruits. And so it's important to have our eyes open to see what are the fruits of people's actions, and then maybe most importantly, what are the fruits of my own actions? What am I recognizing that God is doing in my own life? So this is a little bit more devotional than what we had time for on Sunday, but asking yourself the question, you know, if I asked you, what has God produced in your life in the last year or two? What has God used you to produce in the last year? And if you stammer and say, I have nothing, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you don't pass some test, but it does make you hopefully think and question and consider, maybe I haven't had my focus correctly on what matters most, you know? So that's the ear test: examine, abide, and recognize.
Yeah, no, it was a great way to remember what he had written in there. One of the words you used on Sunday for the examine was focused study. And I really liked that. And I had wrote that down because, yeah, examine, focused, you know, it just really hones in on it. And abide is a big theme here so far in 1 John. And so he's touching on it again, you know, as a grandfather would, to remind his little children that, yep, we need to abide.
Right. And remember, you know, the most famous abide passage is John 15, which John also wrote.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's really passionate about this. And it's something to be said for him being maybe Jesus's best friend, the disciple Jesus loved, one of the inner circle. You know, if Jesus' best friend is really focused on abiding, then maybe we should be too.
Yeah. And then with your recognize, one of the questions you asked on Sunday, similar to now, was, you know, how many people listening right now have no fruit or a prioritization of God and his word? And there's a reflection question in which we should always be thinking through, are we putting him as the priority? So I loved that challenge. And then you had your test, why to test the spirits. That was your point 2. So here it says many will fall, and we have a mission. So why will they fall? And then also, I don't know that you really got to your point on the mission part. So
yeah, we at least were able to say it, but we didn't really explain it. So I thank you for giving me that opportunity. So a lot of this came from the passage in Matthew chapter 24, talking about the end times, and a very challenging passage. If you read that whole chapter, I'd encourage you to do so. But verses 10 through 14, Jesus is talking about how there will be great challenges in the end times, and that many will fall. Most people's love will grow cold. Very challenging phrasings. That it's not just some, not just a casual couple. This is many and most. We're talking massive swaths of people that are at least self-proclaimed Christians, if not actual Christians, their love growing cold. And what does that mean? So when we talk about why is it important to test the spirits, it's because, one, the Antichrist, the spirit of the Antichrist is in the world already, like it says. So that really ups the stakes at really embracing the concept that the war is serious. It's not a future reality that might happen if, we happen to live in those days. The spirit of the Antichrist is at work, and there are many false prophets right now. But also, it is to remember that it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Mm-hmm. That in Matthew 24, 10 through 14, we really hear about how there will be a massive falling away. And that should be a call to be ever more serious about testing, those spirits. The mission was actually verse 14, Matthew 24, 14, which I don't have memorized, but basically says, the gospel will be preached to all the nations, and then the end will come. And so this is a classic missiology verse about what is a prerequisite for the end of the world. And it is for one of the prerequisites is for all of the nations to be reached. And so if we desire for the hastening of the day, as the word proclaims, if we desire to complete the mission, to carry out God's plan on earth, and if we want to be fulfillers of the good works which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them, Ephesians 2:10, if we want to be zealous for good works, if we want to be producers of good fruit as good trees, all these different phrases in Scripture, then it would come natural that it is vital that we don't fall away, that we don't grow cold, and the way to do that is to test the spirits. So if you think about it, you test the spirits so you don't fall away, but so that you can carry on the mission, which naturally goes by the train of thought of Matthew from 13, talking about how many will fall away, and then he goes to 14, where he says, because the real mission is that we go to the ends of the earth. And so that is why it's so important to test the spirits, not just so that you can be right and you can make sure you're not wrong. It's so that you can go out and minister and evangelize and share or equip people to do so and pray and give and do what we're doing in Uganda and all over right now as we attempt to grow as a church in missions.
Yeah, on Sunday you had mentioned it's pretty easy to be a cultural Christian, but you said it's easy and deadly, which ties into what you're saying about that we have this mission, right? You had your own personal testimony. You left kind of a cliffhanger on Sunday of your personal testimony. But yeah, so what did you mean by that with being a cultural Christian?
Yeah, so this is the concept that you believe that you know Jesus because you were raised in it, or because you think you have said a prayer once upon a time, or you have, made some confession in front of people, but your heart wasn't in it. You don't have fruit. You have no prioritization of the word. You aren't practicing righteousness. You aren't walking in the light. Everything that the book of 1 John continually says, this is how you know, you say, yeah, I don't really see that in my life. But I did do this one thing this one time, but my good outweighs my bad, and I know that this historical character did this event called the resurrection, so therefore I'm saved. If you have these muddied waters for various reasons in our society of what I would call a cultural Christian, somebody that is trying to gain acceptance by being a Christian, the complete opposite of a persecuted church, right? So there it is unacceptable to be a Christian, and so that's where we talked about there's no fakers, or at least radically few fakers of Christianity in a place where you get killed for it, because people don't sign up to die for something they don't believe in. And so you don't have to sign up to die for something in America, and so it's really deadly to sign up for the wrong reasons, and then you don't ever really know if you're in or if you're serious, or you're just kind of casually walking, doing the thing to continue the traditions, and whether it's pharisaical and legalistic, or whether it's very casual and licentious, where you just kind of think that you're okay because you did something, you got a punch ticket, you can live however you want. That was really the point of, hey, that's extremely deadly, because somebody that's an atheist at least knows they don't believe in Jesus. But a cultural Christian doesn't even know that they don't know Jesus. They think they do. And it's way harder to fight the evil you don't know than to fight the evil you do know. And so it muddies the water in a really difficult way to try to convince somebody who thinks they are well that they are sick. And so if, you could ask any doctor that kind of a question, you'd much rather have somebody that is well aware and admittance that they need help than somebody that thinks that they're well and they're just carrying on an extremely destructive lifestyle and that they just preach that they're okay. And that's what I meant really when I talked about cultural Christianity.
As you were talking, it made me think of a conversation I had over the weekend, which was works-based faith. So that would probably fall in that category as well, in a cultural Christian, as you were kind of describing it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in America, we have a very consumeristic, individualized, climb the ladder kind of culture. And so naturally, we have a very busy culture, a very, hard work gains success, which means you are highly valuable. I remember when I went into an investment place where Kendra had an investment that I was trying to understand before we got married. And the guy very lovingly, he was a Christian, but he very lovingly asked me, what's your net worth? And I just had to shake my head. Even in I understand the real question, but still it's that's what we, categorize. That's what we qualify as your net worth is based on how much you have worked for, how much has been given to you, whatever it is. And so, it's ingrained into our society, this concept of how much have you worked for? How worthy are you? And that's where you have to start at the foot of the cross, where you say, I am an unworthy servant. It's like when Jesus said, when you go to a feast, do not sit at a place of honor, for the host will come to you and say, that's somebody's seat, sit down lower and you will be ashamed. Instead, sit at the lowest place, and then the host will come and say, friend, move up higher, and you will be glorified for that. And so that's the real concept that we have to be careful of, is when you get into these works-based mentalities, it's necessarily comparative. The only way you know that you worked really hard is because you feel like somebody else didn't. The only reason that you feel like your works were so shiny is because you think somebody else's are dull. And so that really quickly gets into nasty territory, and it makes you honestly deadly.
Yeah. Well, just reflecting back to what you had said earlier in your sermon with, listening and the prioritizing of God, and then seeing, but our fruit is still there because of what we do. Serving wise is our fruit, and it shouldn't be based on a comparison of, are you doing more than someone else?
Absolutely.
But there is that thing, but I think it's an important point too, because there is a lot of conversation around that, and then understanding my salvation, how it's associated with that. So real good conversation over the weekend, but thanks for going over that again.
Yeah, for sure.
And then your third point, which we talked about kind of first, but
wrap it up that way.
What matters most? And you had assurance of salvation and sovereignty. And here you took us to verse 4, which, he overcome and he is greater. So what matters most in summary?
In summary, I'll give it anecdotally. I was in Texas, and I was being discipled by a elderly man named Craig. Shout out, Craig, you changed my life. And he said, okay, we're going to meet every week, and we're going to memorize scripture, we're going to pray together, we're going to do all of this. But honestly, Alex, none of that matters if we don't build it on the right foundation. And so he was not only discipling me, but he was simultaneously training me how to disciple others, which I want to encourage other people to consider. And so he said, if you ever disciple somebody, this is where we have to start. He said, are you 100% convinced that you know the Lord? And if the answer is yes, how do you have such confidence? What gives you assurance? How are you so sure? And if you're not sure, why not? And he said, if you're not sure, we're not moving on. We're not going to start memorizing verses and trying to act like Pharisees where we got a bunch of all our ducks in a row, but at the end of the day, we don't even know if we know God. Are you sure that you know Jesus, that you have a relationship with him? Because if not, that is the question that you really need to work through before trying to develop a whole bunch of disciplines or something like that, like it's so much more important for your child to accept that they are part of the family than that they clean their room. If you get them to clean their room, but they don't ever feel like they are part of the family, you have a real problem. And the problem is not trying to clean your room better. You haven't started in the right place. Right. And so super important that you know that you're in the family before you try and do things to show God how much you love him or that you want to serve him, or else it does become upside down workspace because you're trying to prove to yourself that you're actually real when you don't know if you are or not. It can get real slippery. So yeah, that's why the assurance of salvation is most important. And the assurance of sovereignty, of course, is just like the confidence that like God is holding you. It's not like you can mess up so bad that you'll never come back or something. Like it is something serious to really take sin very seriously and to not just say, I'm always in, it's all good. But there is a precious confidence that comes from knowing that God not only controls all things, but that He has adopted you, and that is a thing of shall we say great strength.
So I'm sure you've met other Christians that have accepted Christ, and yet they waver on whether or not they are a child of God. So what advice would you give them?
Great question. I struggled with this when I came out of the throes of my wild darkness and then accepted Christ and then battled addictions for a year and read 1 John and was horrified at some of these phrasings, like if you continue in sin, then you're a liar and the truth isn't in you, But if you walk in darkness, you don't have the light, I don't really know how to accept my current life that is far from perfect, how can I be sure that I actually am serious about this and I'm not just making it up? And that's such a difficult personal question of how does somebody become convinced that they are adopted or loved or part of the family. And I think for some people it is instantaneous, praise the Lord, and that's unique. And some people it's a process, and that for them to really gain some incredible assurance that carries them through. And that's its own blessing. If I just had like an off the cuff, to a stranger, like I would honestly ask them a lot of questions about why they feel that way. Why, what in their life causes this? Is it sin that they haven't overcome? Is it that they have had negative church experiences and so, or 1,000 other things, So I think it really drills down to like, the Bible calls God He who searches hearts. And He promises that if you seek, you'll find, if you seek me with all your heart. So the real question is like, is your heart right? Like, are you seeking God for the right reasons, And so a lot of that self-reflection, you can help somebody reflect upon what those reasons are. But I would suggest, and I am quite biased to the glorious Word of God, but I would suggest that you might go back to ear and you might examine, and I mean really open up and feast on the Word. And that's really a big part of my testimony that brought me to a state of extreme confidence, is I just found myself having an appetite and an interest and a love for the Word. And I wasn't always following it. I was still struggling in deep, dark ways, honestly. But I knew that it was like a rudder. It was like a joy. It was like something I wanted to go to. Abiding. Do you have any answered prayer in your life? Do you have any times of sweet fellowship with Jesus? Do you have any sense that you have ever felt His presence, recognizing the fruit? Do you have any kind of transformation that you can point to, even if it's just internal and you just know that you don't think like you used to, you don't feel like you used to, you don't have the same appetites you used to? It's one thing to say, I'm going to be a good boy and not do that anymore. It's another thing to say, I'm going to be honest, I don't even really desire that anymore. And sometimes that takes a lot of time, but can you start to see those trajectories in your life? So it's not really so easy, and I think that's an important thing. I think if it was easy, Breanne, I think if it was something that there was a Bible verse that said, hey, if you're questioning your salvation, just do this. Right. everyone would become so legalistic about it. God knows full well that us humans would just be so to-do list based that we would do it and we'd say, okay, well now I'm good, right?
Right.
And so there can't be that. It has to be personal, just like a relationship. It has to be personal. You know, like if I asked you, you know, how do you know that I'm really your friend, that I'm actually your friend, that it's not just, you know, a game or something like that? There's not just like a single easy answer for everyone. You know, you have to really draw upon your experiences and your thoughts and your shared times and what you believe about the person and so forth.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your insights with that because it's good for us to examine, abide, and recognize. So EAR, and it's a great acronym. So thanks for teaching.
Yeah. And one last thing, I just want to say that doubt isn't shameful. So I just want to encourage people that it's super important that if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, I'm in that category where I sometimes I really question the thing that the devil wants you to do more than anything else on planet Earth, and I really don't even mean to be hyperbolic in this, really is he wants you to isolate yourself. That's the number one thing he wants you to do. Because that's where all, not to be too graphic, but that's where all molestation happens, is apart from the pack, alone. And so that's what it will happen spiritually. And so it's just absolutely essential, like the abide concept, that you are with other believers. That's really what's going to bring you up to teach you how to cook and not just eat, and to remind you that you are in the family, and that is something that is desirable. That's something, you know, a pitch for this Sunday that we're going to talk all about is the concept of what does it mean to be in God's family and to love God's family, and to really prioritize that as an essential mark, not prerequisite of salvation, but a mark of salvation. That's how you can tell if somebody's serious, is if they love God's family. That's how you can tell if you're in the family. And so that's one great thing to do, is just, if you're ever experiencing doubts, just do not cower, do not go alone, do not isolate, reach out to people, double down on your investment in community. And I think that's the way that God made us. Yeah.
Community can affirm us and help us sharpen us. And so, yeah, exactly. Right. So that's what we have to look forward to on Sunday, is you get to teach on that passage. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. 7 through 21, I think it is. The rest of 1 John 4.
The rest of it. Yeah. So Sunday will be a normal Sunday, except Alex is preaching again, and you can look forward. Hopefully, I can convince him to come back on next week.
It's because I'm not normal. Is that what you mean? That's the reason.
Yeah, the exception to the rule.
Yeah. I'm abnormal. It's okay. I embrace it.
And you embrace it. I love it. And it's a great opportunity for you to visit with Alex further on Sunday. And just, if you have more questions here, but we hope to have him back on the podcast next week. I'm trying to get it recorded so that you agree. So that we definitely be
have the commitment.
That's right. So you can't back out on me. But friends, we love you. And church is at 9:30 on Sundays, and we hope to see you there.
Yeah, hope to see you there.